How did the rookies for the Dallas Cowboys perform in their first preseason game? All that and more in this episode of the Locked On Cowboys podcast.
You are Locked On Cowboys, your
Locked
daily Dallas Cowboys podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Locked on Cowboys.
Welcome back to the Locked On Cowboys podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We want to thank you for making us your first listen of the day. We are free and available on all platforms. Today's episode is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline.net has you covered this season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. BetOnline, where the game starts. I am Marcus Mosher. You can follow me on Twitter at Marcus_Mosher. He is Landon McCool. Check him out on Twitter at McCoolBCB. Landon, the first preseason game has come and gone. People are in a great mood. Nobody's panicking at all.
No.
How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. I mean, I am fully freaked out about every single little thing that I saw, and it's a full confirmation of all my previous biases and narratives. And I'm excited to actually talk about what I saw in preseason football. I'm not excited to talk about what I saw on preseason football Twitter.
Do you want to do 15 seconds on penalties? Because that was the big story coming out of the game.
No.
Okay.
No.
I mean, we don't have to listen. A lot of the penalties were just stupid. And I know people get concerned about it because they had so many in, the playoff game last year. But it's week one of the preseason, and 75% of the guys that played aren't going to make the roster. So,
I mean, again, there's a whole lot of talk about the people that committed the penalties, not a lot of talk about the people that called all the penalties. And maybe we should have a conversation about. No one wants to have that conversation.
Well, if you want to listen to that one, you can go to Locked On Referees, the channel over there. All right, let's talk about the Cowboys rookie class. Let's start with Tyler Smith, who I thought had a very up and down day, mostly up. Right, I think he played very well. You could see the power, you could see the athleticism. He did get called for 2 holding calls. One, I think he deserved. The other one, not so much. But what were your overall takeaways from Tyler Smith at left guard?
I keep hearing people talk about an up and down day. And I mean, to me, he had a fantastic day. I think he had one holding call, like you mentioned, that was legitimate. Another one, which he was just destroying a linebacker. And they decided to throw the flag on there. We saw 4 or 5 different times Cowboys defensive ends getting blocked in a similar manner, not getting penalties called on them. So on the offensive tackle. So I thought he played fantastic. He showed you exactly the kind of athleticism that you get with him. He showed you the kind of physicality and toughness and strength. He was moving bodies. He was getting to where he needed to be. I think, even going back and looking at that 4th down sack or incompletion, I kind of think that might have been Biotish. The issue was it's like they did a half slide and they didn't account for the guy that was right on Biotish's nose. And I also think that Dak would have eliminated that. I think part of that issue was just a lack of identification on what they needed to do with their slide. But I thought overall he had a really, really good day. He showed you the kind of player that he's going to be, and showed you the kind of benefit that he gives this Cowboys running game when he's in there. And really, I think that the kind of the shocking thing was how much better Conor McGovern played at right guard. Frankly,
and that was like one of the things. This is like a real thing now. Like we've seen this during the 2020 season, week 1 of the 2021 season, and now again in the preseason. Like he is a very below average left guard, but a pretty decent right guard.
Yeah. I mean, I think that as the highlights should be Conor McGovern. He played fantastic. He showed you exactly what you're looking for the future. He's still got some things to clean up. Of course, this is his first game. Look, this is his first NFL speed game. Like he's been taught all this stuff, and then he gets in there and now he's getting full, go to the ground NFL speed at the preseason level, at least.
Yeah.
There's going to be times when he's going to be still trying to work out what he's doing a little bit.
Oh yeah.
And I think that's, the defensive tackle redirecting while you've got a grip on him. That's a difficult thing to, maintain a block and not hold. So that's just learning curve stuff. But I think that overall, he really, really showed you what an upgrade he's going to be on that left guard. Not just a guy who can hold up, but a guy who can move bodies, which is something that the Cowboys really need.
So all in all, you were pleased by what you saw from Tyler Smith.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think you saw, again, like, this isn't a finished product. This is a guy that's still, halfway from where he was drafted to where he's going to be in the NFL. This is, week one. So I think the reps are going to increase exponentially going forward. And I think as the reps increase, his learning will increase as well. I think where he is right now bodes very well for where he needs to be. I think week one when we go against Tampa Bay.
Yeah, and what we really want to see here is improvement. We've got a baseline now of what we've seen against Denver. Clean up some of the technical stuff and some of the footwork. I think you'll see an even better player. But if that's the starting point, you can work with it, right? I don't think he's so far away that you can't play him as a rookie.
No, and I think, again, the thing that we're like, he's better than just good enough. He's a weapon. I mean, he's good. Like, I think we need to raise the floor. I mean, we need to raise the floor of consistency, but this isn't a situation where, okay, his high level play is good enough. We just need to make sure he's not making mistakes. Like, this dude's going out there and kicking butt. And he just needs to kind of play at a normal, consistent level that he's not going to get penalties, that sort of thing, at an unreasonable rate. And then we're going to reap the benefits of having an incredibly strong interior offensive lineman on our team.
All right, we're going to talk about the rest of the Cowboys rookie class. They got all the players that play. But before we do that, I want to tell you about BetterHelp. Life is full of twists and turns, and it's important to show up for yourself through it all. BetterHelp Online Therapy will assess your needs and can match you with your own licensed professional therapist in less than 48 hours. It's not a crisis line. It's not self-help. It's professional therapy done securely online, available to people worldwide. You can log into your account anytime and send a message to your therapist. You can schedule weekly video or phone sessions, so you don't even have to appear on camera if you don't want to. And getting therapy every week is as easy as a few clicks on your laptop or phone. With therapy, it can take a few tries to get the right fit for you, but BetterHelp makes it easy and it's free to change therapists as much as you need. It's more affordable than traditional offline therapy, and financial aid is available. BetterHelp is a great way to invest in yourself, and they've got a special offer for our listeners right now. Get 10% off your first month at betterhelp.com/lockedon. That is 10% off your first month of online therapy at betterhelp.com/lockedon. All right, let's talk about Sam Williams, who played quite a few snaps, 33 snaps in this game. You saw the athleticism and the explosiveness on one of the hits that he had, which, I mean, I kind of think he got flagged for roughing the passer just by playing football. That's a pretty clean hit. What did you think about him?
I thought he looked great. I mean, he's explosive. He's powerful. They were using him even as a 3 technique at times.
I saw that.
In certain
yep,
packages.
There was a third down where he was like lined up as a defensive tackle. Yep.
I'm wondering if they are thinking about trying to use him in some sort of NASCAR package with Lawrence and Parsons all on the field at the same time. So I think that was very interesting. You saw him kind of playing all over because of that. I mean, inside and outside. When he was outside, he was bending the edge. He was getting good bursts. He was explosive. He was powerful. He was lifting guys off the ground. I think he's just further along than a lot of us kind of expected, at least as far as a physical specimen playing in the NFL. I mean, sometimes, like we said, these kind of more explosive pass rushers, these speed guys, they don't have that power element to his game, but he seemingly does. So
I still worry about him in the run a little bit. There was a goal line snap where he kind of got moved out of the way, but man, the athleticism and the power that he can generate because of his explosiveness, and it's a lot of fun to watch when it's working the right way.
Yeah, he's not going to be able to take on double teams, but he's also not going to get blocked by a tight end. He's not going to, and he's going to make tackles' lives hell too in the run game. So I agree that, he still is not maybe, DeMarcus Lawrence or anything like that. But I think that he has way more than you normally anticipate, the kind of bendy pass rushers having in the run game right away. So I think they're trying to find ways to use that power a little bit more. That's why you're seeing a little bit of the 3 technique stuff, because he can kind of maybe handle some of those pass rush snaps inside. But overall, I think we saw just kind of a continuation of what we've seen of Sam Williams so far as a guy who, not only belongs, but looks like he may be ready for snaps sooner than kind of we expected.
Yeah, they're going to find ways to get him on the field and use his speed. So, Jalen Tolbert, 40 snaps in this game, got several targets in the beginning of this game. Most of them were uncatchable. Did drop a pass on fourth down. It was a little bit of a hospital ball by Cooper Rush, but one that he needs to catch.
Yeah.
What did you think of Jalen Tolbert?
I wouldn't say that Tolbert had a good game. I think
he looked a little overwhelmed.
Well, and I will say that, going back and watching that tape, he was being mugged by those DBs the entire game, and he only drew one pass interference penalty, which is kind of shocking. If you go back and watch the first 3 reps he had, the guys were all over him before the ball even arrived. So, and look, Rush could have, we could just pull back for a second. Cooper Rush played absolutely terrible. Just not anticipating everything, late on throws, and then when you're late and you've got no arm, you're not giving your wide receivers any opportunities really. But Tolbert, it's like they forced a bunch of targets on him. And Rush didn't seem comfortable necessarily throwing all of them to him. I thought, he had some issues kind of fighting through some of that stuff, which, normally you wouldn't hope that he would have to, but he, this is the NFL. That's going to happen. There's going to be situations where those guys are going to be all up in you, and you got to be.
He needs to play better through contact. He just needs to get stronger there.
And I don't know that was a problem for him in college, and
it might be because of the level of competition.
Maybe,
right?
maybe
you're just not seeing those caliber defensive backs, but I suspect now that he's got a game under his belt, kind of knows what the NFL physicality is like, he'll be better. We'll see.
I also would just mention that I don't know how many passes throughout training camp Tolbert took from Cooper Rush. He was taking all first team reps since the spring to try to get him ready. So
sure,
I don't know that there's a lot of rapport there.
Let's just do a couple more rookies before we go on to some veterans. I'll give you the floor on Jake Ferguson. I know you were impressed. Go ahead.
Man, I didn't get to see very much of him last week because he was injured. He was dealing with the hamstring stuff, so I didn't get to see him at training camp very much. Just a very sound player. I think for a guy that's a rookie tight end, I saw him as a point of attack blocker. Was impressed that he wasn't just getting blown up there. As a receiver, he's just very smooth. He takes the ball in very well, and he gets upfield very quickly. I think. I still don't think he's the most athletic guy in space. They ran a wider or a tight end screen for him, and he had 2 blockers in front of him, and he let a defensive back tackle him. Yeah, I don't like.
That's not his game.
That's not his game. I don't want him to get the ball and then being trying to water bug his way through the secondary. That's just not going to happen. You get the ball and get north and south and kind of be
run over a smaller linebacker. Get whatever yards you can. Let's move on to the next play. That's his role, right?
And I think as a good enough blocker, and I think that's what we've seen is that he's, to me, I was concerned that that he didn't. I was concerned about his level of skill in general, especially if he's going to come in and play tight end too. You want a level of skill that I just hadn't witnessed yet because of the injury, and it looks like he has, or at least he's on his way to that right away. And I think he could potentially be a guy that's a down roster weapon. So I do like that aspect of him. I think we also have to, if we're going to finish up with rookies, we have to talk about Dennis Houston too. Undrafted free agent rookie nonetheless, but the drumbeat still kind of continues there. He goes out there with the first team. He was open a couple of different times that Rush just completely didn't see him. And then finally made a huge catch on third down to convert, a third and I think it was 12 or something like that. So again, not super flashy, but just continues to do it every single day and every single practice and every single opportunity. So you have to just, put an eye on that because it's going to make a difference.
Yeah. The guy that I wanted to mention was their cornerback, Deron Bland, who played a bunch of snaps in this game. He had 7 targets against him, had allowed just 1 catch for 2 yards. He had 3 stops, 4 tackles, and a pass deflection. He looked really good. And we can talk about the other cornerbacks in a little bit, but he certainly didn't look overwhelmed out there. He played confidently. He had a really nice tackle on a screen. Deron Bland looks like a player, man.
Yeah, he looks like like he's comfortable out there. He wasn't overwhelmed by any of it. Not just in coverage, but kind of the other things, coming downhill quickly to make a tackle, just being physical. You saw several different aspects of his game that you need to see from a cornerback on the field, not just the coverage aspect. So encouraging stuff from Deron Bland so far.
All right, we're going to talk about some other players that just kind of caught our eye for either good or bad reasons. But before we do that, I'll tell you guys about BetOnline. BetOnline.net is the fastest and the easiest way to check in on all of your betting needs. Find all of your favorite sports and events at the #1 online source for odds, lines, and games. Find reviews and news for every league, including Major League Baseball, NFL, NBA, NHL, combat sports, esports, and even golf. BetOnline continues to be the top online resource for all of your sports wagering information, from live in-game betting, scores, and podcasts. They have you covered. Head to BetOnline today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends in action. BetOnline, where the game starts. All right, I'm going to just name some players. You just got to give me like one or two lines based on what you saw. Matt Farniok, Cowboys center.
I think Farniok looked great. I honestly hope that Farniok gets more opportunity. I think he's a guy that didn't screw up anything. That I could tell from my eyeballs. I don't know what the calls are, but he looked confident. He looked like he knew what he was doing. He looks like he made the right calls. He's big. He's strong. He's another guy that's going to be able to move bodies. He's not going to get bullied in there. I understand Biotish is started taking steps near the end of the year. But I think Farniok has earned an opportunity to kind of come in here and at least see what he can do. I mean, they're kind of setting him up as the swing interior guy. You saw him playing guard as well as center last night. But I mean, I really think that, his strength is something that it's worth, taking a look at to kind of keep that strong pocket. If we want to become the kind of offensive line that we want to, we might need more girth at the center position. And I think having someone like Farniok in there is something that we should at least explore, because I thought he really played a good game.
And I would also say I thought James Empey, the center from BYU, played well. I don't know well enough to make the roster, but if the Cowboys are only going to keep one center on the practice squad, I would say he probably has a leg up on Lindstrom just through one preseason game. Again, I haven't been out at practice. You have. Just my thoughts. Tight ends. Peyton, Hendershot, and Jeremy Sprinkle. I think we should mention them together because one of those guys played well, the other did not.
Yeah, Hendershot had a nice game, and Sprinkle is a guy that he's the vet. He's the one that you kind of signed as your floor. But it does, his struggles, put the Cowboys kind of in a bad spot, because they really need to make sure that they have somebody that they feel confident as a blocker. And if you can't, you feel like you can't keep him on the team, and you really want to keep Hendershot, you need to make sure that like someone between him or McEwen or Ferguson is going to be able to function in that role, or you need to be able to plan to use Conor McGovern a lot as a tight end. Yep. So I think that's the only thing that I would point out, is that it does seem that that kind of tight end, that four pack of tight ends, seems to be pretty clear on who the four best are. The problem is that Sprinkle kind of provides a different type of player than the rest of the other four do. So you kind of lose that opportunity to have a player like that on your team.
My only concern, my concern with Sprinkle is he was not an athlete to begin with. Like, he's just coming out of college. Like, he's just this big tight end that was basically functioned as an extra offensive lineman. I think he's lost some of his athleticism since coming into the league. And now I'm wondering, like, is it really worth having that guy on the roster who gives you nothing as a receiver and maybe even a bit limited now as a blocker, right? I don't think you can put him in move situations. I think he almost has to be an inline tight end only. Man, I think I'd rather have Hendershot or keep Sean McEwen and play him more, because those guys are just a little bit more athletic in space.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's without a doubt correct. I mean, I think if you look at I think you're right that he's kind of lost a little bit of his athleticism. I think that he didn't have a ton to begin with. I think the reason he's on the team is because he's by far the best blocking tight end, right? And you need that kind of role on the team. Not so much that you're going to cut any of these other guys, right? Because these other guys are more talented, but and I don't think you should keep him simply because he's the best blocking tight end. But I think that if you aren't going to keep him, they need to have a plan for what they're going to do without him, because they need to have tight ends who can block. And so they need to figure out if these other guys can be able to function in that role as they need them, or they need to kind of come up with the schematic solution there, which again, it could include using an extra offensive lineman, whatever.
I didn't hate Jake Ferguson's blocking. I thought his blocking was
no.
fine.
I think if Ferguson continues to block the way he does, and you can still get something out of McCool, you feel like we'll see as these games go on. I mean, tight end blocking is actually one of the things you can actually see in preseason games that is actually a beneficial viewing point for that sort of thing. So if they can kind of continue that and make the Cowboys feel, good enough about it that they feel like they can live without Jeremy Sprinkle, then I think that.
Jeremy Springer.
If we could get him back, why don't you bring up Jeremy Shockey while we're at it? No, I think if they feel like if they can get good enough blocking from their tight ends that they can make him obsolete, then I certainly think that those other four guys, Schultz, Ferguson, McCool, and Hendershot are more likely to be the guys that they keep on the roster. And maybe what they do is they cut him and find a way to bring him back or something if they need him or something.
I guarantee you he's one of these guys that you could cut, play week 1 and bring him back, and then just kind of play him week by week if you needed to, right? Like once you put some guys on IR or whatever you decide to do. And I wouldn't be surprised if that's the case at all, because there's just not going to be a big market for Jeremy Sprinkle.
Keep his name in the Rolodex sort of situation.
Yep. Yeah. A couple other players, Kelvin Joseph and Nahshon Wright. Listen, I know Kelvin Joseph gave up a touchdown. I know Nahshon Wright gave up some plays down the field. I didn't think either of those guys were as bad as what Cowboys Twitter wanted to make it seem. I actually thought Nahshon Wright had some really impressive tackles. There was one play Denver ran like a little wide receiver screen to the left-hand side, and the safety blitzed in and basically left Nahshon Wright on an island by himself, and he made a fantastic tackle. And I know people don't care about that if you're getting beat down the field, but I just don't think those guys played nearly as bad as what everybody's saying.
I agree. I think that first of all, some of these down the field pass stuff, it's like, you don't have your best pass rush out there. They don't have their best pass blockers out there, but it's also like, you can't ask these guys to cover forever. Well, second of all, it's not like these guys were getting burned. It's not like
here's Kelvin Joseph's numbers. You ready? He was targeted 5 times. He allowed 3 catches for 15 yards and 1 touchdown. And I don't know what he could have done on the touchdown considering where he lined up. It's a really tough spot for him. He challenged the catch. The guy made a great play. It happens.
And it happened the same thing with Wright too on the touchdown where he was in position. He just needs to find the ball a little bit better than he did. And look, I mean, that's the thing. Each of them, even on their touchdowns, look at what Joseph did on that touchdown. Like it didn't work out, but I love the way he was able to get his hand between the player and the ball and try to separate as they came down. Like he did things correctly. It didn't work out. And Wright, he had that kind of, I'm just another ticky-tacky penalty, frankly, especially considering what their DBs were doing to Jalen Tolbert at that point in the game. I couldn't believe they called that Wright penalty. I thought, again, I thought
Joseph played better than Wright, though, just to be clear.
Absolutely. But I mean, again, I've seen bad cornerback play before. They gave up plays, but it wasn't like they were being toasted. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like they were in coverage. They're in sync. There's so many different times that they were in alignment with the guy and the play just didn't work out. So do they need to finish better, especially Nahshon Wright? I would say, yeah, they do. But I think that's, people were watching that game and they're like, yeah, maybe we should move Nahshon Wright to safety. And it's like, it's one preseason game, guys. Like, let's let these guys develop. Like getting into these games is development for Joseph and Wright. Yeah. They're still so young in their career. So I still feel really good about how they played. I know that may be an unpopular opinion, but I mean, if you take both of their situations as a whole, and again, especially Joseph, I thought Joseph played good football. He, just gave up one play, really. And if you look at the other little things, the way that they rallied to tackle, the way that they were in phase with these guys for a lot of these times. A lot of the throws that they didn't make because they were covering these guys.
Mhm.
I think that overall they played much, much better than the perception out there. But again, that's kind of what the conjecture is with preseason games. So I guess it's not shocking.
I just wanted to mention Quentin Bohanna really quickly. He
Yeah.
played 22 snaps. He actually had 3 stops in this game. He also had a pressure. I thought he played really well in limited time. And then Marquise Bell, he had an incredible hit on the quarterback down in the red zone. He was flying all over the field. Just thought those guys made some plays. Was excited.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Gallimore had some good rushes as well, especially early on. I think he had a nice tackle for loss. I think we do need to talk about the offensive tackle situation, right? Like, I do think that.
Yeah, sorry, I forgot to mention them.
No, I mean, I think Ball, had some pretty good snaps early on, and then as the game started to go on, it just started to really deteriorate a lot. And he got away with some stuff early, meaning like not holding, but like blocking a guy who got past him, but the play was over. That sort of thing. But I think the Cowboys need to figure out what they're doing. I would like to know what the Cowboys' plan is at the tackle position. Because I think that they have one, but they're not telling us.
I think having him try to be a swing tackle is too much. Now, if they want him to be like the permanent backup right tackle, I could live with that. I actually think that would suit his skill set a little bit better, but I just don't think he's a left tackle, man. I don't.
Yeah, I don't think the Ball had a terrible, terrible night. I think that we got to put it in the context of what these players are, right? And for what we've seen from him, I thought he had a pretty decent night. I just think that this is too much of an ask to move him full-time to left tackle, give him they're trying to give him all these reps at left tackle because he didn't take any left tackle snaps during the spring. So I just think you move him back to right tackle and then you figure out what you're doing at left tackle, whether that's Tyler Smith kick out or you're signing a guy off the street. That's fine. But I don't think that you can suddenly just make Ball the swing tackle. It clearly is not going to work during the season.
Yeah, it's a little overwhelming for him. But that's all the guys I have. Anybody else you wanted to mention before we head out?
No, I just think that, it's a lot of, I just want to remind everyone, it's a lot of trying to study specific players doing specific things. That's the best way to kind of get the analysis out of these preseason games, especially when there's no starters or any kind of we fool ourselves into thinking this is a real game. These are not real games. No one's scheming. No one's actually trying to win. If people were actually worried about the score, then why wouldn't you put in your best players?
Beyond that,
you know what I'm saying?
Beyond that, every team has different goals in the preseason. Yeah. Like I watched. I'm a sick person. I watched almost every preseason game this weekend because that's what I do. Football. And like Baltimore loves to win these preseason games because they want to set a culture of, hey, we want to win every single thing we do. I watched Pittsburgh. They were clearly designing things on offense to get the quarterback's confidence up because Trubisky and Rudolph and Kenny Pickett have not had good, training camp practices. I think Dallas they really wanted to work on, let's work on our run game. And you could see it. Like they were trying a ton of different run game stuff. I think they want to be more physical up front. And let's just make sure that we minimize injuries. They had 30 guys sit out of this game, right? Yeah. Every team has. I saw the Giants. Wink Martindale was sending blitzes, like safety blitzes against the Patriots. Like, why? What are we trying to do here? So just remember that the goal in these games is not to win for every team. They're all working on things.
Yeah, and that is something that is very important. It's that winning is secondary here because ultimately the wins don't matter. You're trying to get yourself prepared for winning in the regular season. So, and
they had different goals. Mike McCarthy might have been thrilled with the way the game gone if the Cowboys were just a little bit better at running the ball. If they could cut down a couple more penalties on offense, who cares about the score? If they accomplish their goal of improving the run game, that's all that really matters to them.
And I thought the run game overall looked really good. I thought, and the defense too, run defense early on. And again, if we're trying to glean like team-wide stuff from here, I certainly wouldn't recommend looking past anything for the first half of the first quarter. Because anything beyond that, like you're subbing in guys who may not play football, may not be playing football, a few weeks from now. So I think it's important to try to kind of have a list of things that you want to look at, very specific things, technique things on these players. If you're trying to glean like how good the team's going to be, or team-wide trends based on what is now less than an exhibition, especially considering what they did with the mutual practices the previous week, you're just going to have a bad time. So that's how we are. That's how it is with the preseason nowadays, unfortunately.
All right, that is it for today's show. Thank you for making Locked On Cowboys your first listen today. Now make Locked On Fantasy Football your second listen. Find the intellectual fantasy expert Vinny Iyer, who brings over 20 years of NFL expertise in a unique angle to give you the moves no one else has. Get ready for your fantasy drafts with Locked On Fantasy Football. You can listen to the Locked On Cowboys podcast wherever you get podcasts. Also check us out on YouTube. You can follow the show at Locked On Cowboys. You can follow Landon at McCool BCB. I'm at Marcus _Mosher. We'll see you guys next time.